just wish he knew. I just wish he knew.
Well, alrighty then. We're back after a bullshit instance of the flu. Damn it, that sucked. Last couple days were fucking miserable. Oh well, it's all in the past now. I mean, kinda, I'm still getting over it slightly, but it's still all in the past now. Nothing I need to worry about. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. Welcome in, everyone. How are we doing? It's time to get into some of the War of 1812. If we can, finish the whole thing. Because why the hell not? I don't see a reason we couldn't, right? Man, this is gonna be all like kind of flip-floppy through these fucking slideshows. I hope it goes well. I hope it goes the way that I planned it. But in the event that it doesn't, oh well, I can blame it on the fact that I'm fucking still kind of sick. Ha ha ha. Not really. Oh, man. Alright. Oh. Couple of announcements, I guess, would be appropriate to make. I did make a post earlier today, I think. Some point in time. Recently. That specifically states, for those of you who have asked me to start doing gaming content again, I would like to say first off, I do appreciate your feedback. Any feedback is greatly appreciated. That being said, I have decided for those of you who want that type of content, I will. However, the main portion of my content on my stream will stay war, aviation, and parkour. I will only be doing gaming content on the weekends when I have time available. If I can fit it in otherwise, I will do my best to make that happen. I do appreciate your support, and I want to put out content that you all enjoy. There is an overall goal with my channel and the content I provide, other than gaming, that I consider more important. In the event that I get monetized and can devote more time to YouTube, I will be more willing to put out gaming content. Till then, my time is very limited. Thusly, I appreciate those of you who stick around. You all are amazing. I hope everyone is doing well. So, this weekend I'll start the gaming streams off on Saturday night. And we're gonna jump into it. And it's not just gonna be gaming. Hey, Sally. Have a great night, sleep well. Thanks for hopping in, dropping the like, you're awesome. But that being said, it's not just going to be video games. I still found a way to provide value. You see, they just don't write stories like they did back in the day. I mean, it is of my firm opinion that after the PS2 era ended, like that time period, right? Not just specifically with gaming, but like movies and shit too. Everything started getting remakes and remade and redone this and redone that. It's like no new original ideas, and all these stories are kind of bland and they suck. Poor writing quality. It's terrible. It's terrible. So, I'm gonna, for the first game that I play on YouTube, play my favorite game of all time. Why? Because I think it has a fucking amazing story. And we're gonna analyze it. We're gonna go over it, and maybe I can teach some people how to recognize a fantastic story, and share that story with all of you. That being said, we're gonna move on to the war, because that's what this stream is for. The war. Alright. The war had been preceded by years of diplomatic dispute, yet neither side was ready for war when it came. Britain was heavily engaged in the Napoleonic Wars. Most of the British Army was deployed in the Peninsular War in Portugal and Spain, and the Royal Navy was blockading most of the coast of Europe. The number of British regular troops present in Canada in July 1812 was officially 6,034, supported by additional Canadian militia. Throughout the war, the British War Secretary, Earl Bathurst, who had few troops to spare for reinforcing North American defenses during the first 2 years of the war, he had urged Lieutenant General George Prevost to maintain a defensive strategy. Prevost, who had the trust of the Canadians, followed these instructions and concentrated on defending Lower Canada at the expense of Upper Canada, which was more valuable or vulnerable to American attacks, and allowed few offensive actions. Unlike campaigns along the East Coast, Prevost had to operate with no support from the Royal Navy. Shitty. The weird thing to me is that Upper Canada and Lower Canada are flip-flopped. What you would think is Lower Canada is not Lower Canada, it's actually Upper Canada. I'm just gonna move through these linearly, fuck it, why not? We're just gonna do it that way. I'm gonna be lazy on this stream, sorry guys. Sorry. Just reading alone is actually kind of difficult, chest is still a little, The United States was also not prepared for war. Madison had assured the state militias would easily seize Canada and that negotiations would follow. In 1812, the regular army consisted of fewer than 12,000 men. Congress authorized the expansion of the army to 35,000 men, but the service was voluntary and unpopular. It paid poorly, and there were initially few trained and experienced officers. The militia objected to serving outside their home states. They were undisciplined and performed poorly against British forces when called upon to fight in unfamiliar territory. Multiple militias refused orders to cross the border and fight on Canadian soil. Damn it. American prosecution of the war suffered its unpopularity, especially in New England, where anti-war speakers were vocal. Massachusetts Congressman Ebenezer Seaver and William Whitgery were publicly insulted and hissed in Boston while a mob seized Plymouth's Chief Justice Charles Turner on the 3rd of August, 1812, and kicked him through the town. The United States had great difficulty financing the war. It had disbanded its national bank, and private bankers in the Northeast were opposed to the war, but it was obtained financing from London-based Barings Bank to cover overseas bond obligations. What? They got loans from London to fight against London? What the hell? What kind of fucking strategy? Effective? No? Jesus. New England failed to provide militia units or financial support, which was a serious blow, and New England states made loud threats to secede, as evidenced by Hartford Convention. Britain exploited these divisions, opting not to blockade the ports of New England for much of the war and encouraging smuggling. Interesting. Oh, look at that. There's the Hartford Convention right there. Visual representation of what I was talking about. All right. An American army commanded by William Hull invaded Upper Canada on July 12th, arriving at Sandwich. After crossing the Detroit River, Hull issued a proclamation ordering all British subjects to surrender. The proclamation said that Hull wanted them to free them from the tyranny of Great Britain, giving them the liberty, security, and wealth that his own country enjoyed, unless they preferred war, slavery, and destruction. He also threatened to kill any British soldier caught fighting alongside indigenous fighters. Hull's proclamation helped to stiffen resistance to the American attacks as he lacked artillery and supplies. Hull withdrew to the American side of the river on the 7th of August 1812 after receiving news of a Shawnee ambush on Major Thomas Van Horn's 200 men. You know what, we can move all the way to the fucking where it begins, right? Hell. Hull also faced a lack of support from his officers and fear among his troops of a possible massacre by unfriendly indigenous forces. A group of 600 troops led by Lieutenant Colonel James Miller remained in Canada attempting to supply American position in the Sandwich area with little success. Major General Isaac Brock believed that he should take bold measures to claim the settler population in Canada and convince the tribes that Britain was strong. He moved to Amherstburg, near the western end of Lake Erie, with reinforcements and attacked Detroit using Fort Meldon as a stronghold. Hull feared that the British possessed superior numbers and Fort Detroit lacked adequate gunpowder and cannonballs to withstand a long siege. He agreed to surrender on the 16th of August. Hull also ordered the evacuation of Fort Dearborn to Fort Wayne, but Potawatomi warriors ambushed them and escorted them back to the fort where they were massacred on the 15th of August. The fort was subsequently burned. Brock moved to the eastern end of Lake Erie where the American General Stephen von Rensselaer was attempting a second invasion. The Americans attempted an attack across the Niagara River on the 13th of October, but they were defeated at the Queenston Heights. I was just on that, wasn't I? Yes, I was. That's kind of funny. Skipped it. However, Brock was killed during the battle, and the British leadership suffered after his death. American General Henry Dearborn made a final attempt to advance north from Lake Champlain, but militia refused to go beyond American territory. After Hull surrendered, Detroit General William Henry Harrison took command of the American Army of the Northwest. He set out to retake the city, which was now defended by Colonel Henry Proctor and Tecumseh. A detachment of Harrison's army was defeated at Frenchtown along the River Raisin on the 22nd of January, 1813. Proctor left the prisoners with inadequate guard, and his Potawatomi allies killed and scalped 60 captive Americans. The defeat ended Harrison's campaign against Detroit. But remember, the River Raisin became a rallying cry for the Americans. And so it begins. We're gonna kill the Americans, we're gonna get pissed, and now we all support the war. Damn it. It started at the beginning. I mean, it is kind of jacked up that they were scalped. Like, where's Shane when you need him for the war crimes? Fuck. Yo, Dano, what's going on? In May 1813, Proctor and Tecumseh set siege to Fort Meade on northwestern Ohio. Tecumseh's fighters ambushed American reinforcements who arrived during the siege, but the fort held out. The fighters eventually began to disperse, forcing Proctor and Tecumseh to return to Canada. Along the way, They attempted to storm Fort Stevenson, a small American post on the Sandusky River near Lake Erie. They were repulsed with serious losses, making the end of the Ohio campaign. Captain Oliver Hazard Perry fought the Battle of Lake Erie on 10th of September 1813. His decisive victory at Put-in Bay ensured American military control of the lake, improved American morale after a series of defeats, and compelled the British to fall back from Detroit. This enabled General Harrison to launch another invasion of Upper Canada, which culminated in the American victory at the Battle of Thames on October 5th, 1813, where Tecumseh was killed. Right on, man. Well, you have a wonderful night. Thanks for dropping in. I appreciate it. Sleep well. I know I will as soon as this fucking stream is over. I'm still kind of sick. The Mississippi River Valley was the western frontier of the United States in 1812. A territory acquired in the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. We have a picture of the Louisiana Purchase. Let me find that real quick. Louisiana Purchase. There it is. Contained almost no American settlements west of the Mississippi except around St. Louis and a few forts and trading posts in the Boone Slick. Fort Bellefontaine was an old trading post converted to an army post in 1804, and this served as regional headquarters. Fort Osage, built in 1808 along the Missouri River, was the westernmost American outpost, but it was abandoned at the start of the war. Fort Madison was built along the Mississippi in Iowa in 1808 and had been repeatedly attacked by the British Allied South since its construction. The United States Army abandoned Fort Madison in September 1813 after the indigenous fighters attacked it and besieged it, with support from the British. This was one of the few battles fought west of the Mississippi. Black Hawk played a leadership role. All right, back to Lake Erie. The American victory on Lake Erie and the recaptured Detroit isolated the British on Lake Huron. In the winter, a Canadian party under Lieutenant Colonel Robert McDougal established a new supply line from New York to Nottawasaga Bay on the Georgian Bay. He arrived at Fort Mackinac on the 18th of May with supplies and more than 400 militia and Indians. Then sent an expedition which successfully besieged and recaptured the key trading post of Prairie du Chien on the upper Mississippi. Cayenne salt, shitload of lemon, mixed water. Have me feeling like $1,000,000. Oh, I'm sure a good night's sleep will have me feeling like $1,000,000. I'm already getting over it. Shit, I don't feel anywhere near as bad as I did a couple days ago. Holy shit. I was incapacitated, and it takes a lot to fucking incapacitate me. Oh my goodness. The Americans dispatched a substantial expedition to relieve the fort, but Sauk, Fox, and Kickapoo warriors under Black Hawk ambushed it and forced it to withdraw with heavy losses in the Battle of Rock Island Rapids. In September 1814, the Sauk, Fox, and Kickapoo, supported by part of the Prairie du Chien's British garrison, repulsed a second American force led by Major Zachary Taylor in the Battle of Credit Island. These victories enabled Sauk, Fox, and Kickapoo to harass American garrisons further in the south, which led Americans to abandon Fort Johnson in central Illinois Territory. Consequently, the Americans lost control of almost all Illinois Territory, although they held on to St. Louis area and eastern Missouri. However, the Sauk invaded. Yeah, nearly 400 militia and Indians. What happened? We're getting into it. However, the Sauk raided even into these territories, clashing with American forces at the Battle of Côte Sans Decien in April 1815, at the mouth of the Osage River in Missouri Territory, and the Battle of Sinkhole in May 1815 near Fort Cap au Gris. This left the British and their Indian allies in control of most of the modern Illinois and most of modern Wisconsin. Meanwhile, fix that situation. Meanwhile, the British were supplying the Indians in the Old Northwest from Montreal via Mackinac. And on the 3rd of July, the Americans sent a force of 5 vessels from Detroit to recapture Mackinac. A mixed force of regulars and volunteers from militia landed on the island on August 4th. They did not attempt to achieve surprise, and the Indians ambushed them in the brief battle of Mackinac Island and forced them to re-embark. Damn it. The Americans discovered the new base at Nawatasaga Bay on the 13th of August. They destroyed its fortifications and the schooner Nancy that they found there. They then returned to Detroit, leaving 2 gunboats to blockade Mackinac. On the 4th of September, the British surprised, boarded, and captured both gunboats. Yeah, damn it. Probably should have left a little bit more. I mean, it's not like they really had much to go off of, right? It's not like they really had much to go off of. They were dealing with some shit like this, you know? And it's like, you got 2 gunboats, and then you have the entire fucking British fleet. Like, damn it. Damn it. These engagements on Lake Huron left Mackinac under British control. Yeah, of course it did. The British returned to Mackinac and other captured territories to the United States after the war. Some British officers and Canadians objected to handing back Prairie du Chien and especially Mackinac under the terms of the Treaty of Ghent. However, the Americans retained the captured post at Fort Malden near Amherstburg until the British complied with the treaty. Fighting between the Americans, the Sauk, and other indigenous tribes continued through 1817, well after the war ended in the East. Yeah, we kinda... Damn it. We kinda messed that one up. Both sides placed great importance on gaining control of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River because of the difficulties of land-based communication. The British had a small squadron of warships on Lake Ontario when the war began and held the initial advantage. The Americans established a Navy yard at Sackett's Harbor, New York, a port on Lake Ontario. Commodore Isaac Chauncey took charge of the thousands of sailors at shipwrights assigned there and recruited more from New York. Damn. They completed a warship, the corvette USS Madison, in 45 days. Ultimately, almost 3,000 men at the shipyard built 11 ships and many smaller boats and transports. Army forces were also stationed at Sackett's Harbor, where they were camped out through the town. Far surpassing the small population of 900, officers were housed with families. Madison's barracks was later built at Sackett's Harbor. Having regained the advantage by their rapid building program, on the 27th of April, 1813, Chauncey and Dearborn attacked York, the capital of Upper Canada. At the Battle of York, the outnumbered British regulars destroyed the fort and dockyard and retreated, leaving the militia to surrender the town. American soldiers set fire to the legislature building and looted and vandalized several government buildings and citizens' homes. Damn. Dicks. I mean, is it really anything new, though? Whose army doesn't do that during wartime, if I'm being real? On the 25th of May, 1813, Fort Niagara and the American Lake Ontario Squadron began bombarding Fort George. An American amphibious force assaulted Fort George on the northern end of the Niagara River on the 27th of May and captured it without serious losses. W. The British abandoned Fort Erie and headed upwards towards Burlington Heights. The British position was close to collapsing in Upper Canada. The Iroquois considered changing sides and ignored a British appeal to come to their aid. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what the natives did a lot. They played a lot of that, like, we're going to pick the winning side until there is no winning side and it's just 1v1 and that's all that's left, right? But, I mean, can you really blame them? No. They had to use their strategies too, right? I mean, shit, what are they going to do? Roll over and just take it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The British position was close to collapsing in Upper Canada. Oh, yeah. However, the Americans did not pursue the retreating British forces until they had largely escaped and organized a counteroffensive at the Battle of Stony Creek on the 5th of June. The British launched a surprise attack at 2 a.m., leading to confused fighting and strategic British victory. The Americans pulled back to Fort Mile Creek rather than continue their advance into Upper Canada. At this point, the Six Nations of the Grand River began to come out to fight for the British, as an American victory no longer seemed inevitable. The Iroquois ambushed an American patrol at 40 Mile Creek while the Royal Navy Squadron based in Kingston sailed in and bombarded the American camp. General Dearborn retreated to Fort George, mistakenly believing that he was outnumbered and outgunned. British Brigadier General John Vincent was encouraged when about 800 Iroquois arrived to assist them. Dang. An American force surrendered on 24th of June to a smaller British force due to an advanced warning by Laura Seckert at the Battle of Beaver Dams, marking the end of the American offensive into Upper Canada. British Major General Francis D. Rottenberg, gross, did not have the strength to retake Fort George, so he instituted a blockade, hoping to starve the Americans into surrender. Meanwhile, Commodore James Lucas Yeo had taken charge of the British ships on the lake and mounted a counterattack, which the Americans repulsed at the Battle of Sackett's Harbor. Thereafter, Chauncey and Yale squadrons fought two indecisive actions off Niagara on the 7th of August at Burlington Bay on the 28th of September. Neither commander was prepared to take major risks to gain a complete victory. Well, play it safe, and it becomes a war of attrition. Late in 1813, the Americans abandoned Canadian territory that they occupied around Fort George. They set fire to the village of Newark on the 10th of December, 1813, incensing the Canadians. Yeah, pissed. Many of the inhabitants were left without shelter, freezing to death in the snow. Dang. Well, probably fall asleep listening. Right on, Dano. You sleep well, sir. Appreciate you. The British retaliated following the capture of Fort Niagara on the 18th of December, 1813. A British Indian force led by Riall stormed the neighboring town of Lewiston, New York on the 19th of December. 4 American civilians were killed by drunken Indians after the battle. What? Oh my God. Let me read. What? Oh, hold up. That's actually kind of fucking funny. 4 American civilians were killed by drunken Indians after the battle. What, were they all drinking together and it just broke out into a fight? The hell? That's gonna piss pissed everybody off. If they weren't for it before, now they're definitely for the war, because now it's not just the British that have pissed off the Americans at this point. Oh man. The British retaliated following their capture of Fort Niagara on the 18th of December 1813. A small force of Tuscarora warriors engaged Riel's men during the battle, which allowed many residents of Lewiston to evacuate the village. The British and their Indian allies subsequently attacked and burned Buffalo on Lake Erie on the 30th of December 1813 in revenge for the American attack on Fort George and Newark in May. The British were vulnerable along the stretch of the St. Lawrence that was between Upper Canada and the United States. In the winter of 1812 and 1813, the Americans launched a series of raids from Ogdensburg, New York, that hampered British supply traffic up the river. On the 21st of February, George Prevost passed through Prescott, Ontario, on the opposite bank of the river with reinforcements for Upper Canada. When he left the next day, the reinforcements and local militia attacked in the Battle of Ogdensburg, and the Americans were forced to retreat. The Americans made 2 more thrusts against Montreal in 1813. Major General Wade Hampton was to march north from Lake Champlain and join a force under General James Wilkinson that would sail from Sackett's Harbor on Lake Ontario and descend the St. Lawrence. Hampton was delayed by road and supply problems, and his intense dislike of Wilkinson limited his desire to support his plan. Well, that's unfortunate. Charles de Salaberry, these fucking names. Charles de Salaberry defeated Hampton's force of 4,000 at the Chateauguay River on the 25th of October with the smaller force of Canadian Voltigeurs and Mohawks. Salaberry's force numbered only 399, but it had a strong defensive position. Wilkinson's force of 8,000 set out on the 17th of October, but it was delayed by weather. Wilkinson heard that a British force was pursuing him under Captain William Mulcaster. Again with the fucking names. You damn it, UK. And the Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Wanton Morris. And landed near Morrisburg, Ontario, by the 10th of November, about 150 kilometers from Montreal. 150 kilometers is roughly 90 miles, to my estimation. I'm going to go ahead and guess. On the 11th of November, his rear guard of 2,500 attacked Morrison's force of 800 at Chrysler's Farm and was repulsed with heavy losses. He learned that Hampton could not renew his advance, retreated to the United States, and settled into winter quarters. He resigned his command, and after a failed attack on British outpost at La Colle Mills. The Americans again invaded the Niagara frontier. They had occupied southwestern Upper Canada after they defeated Colonel Henry Proctor at Moraviantown in October and believed that taking the rest of the province would force the British to cede it to them. The end of the war with Napoleon and Europe in April 1814 meant that the British could deploy their army to North America. So the Americans wanted to secure Upper Canada and negotiate a position of strength. Yeah, see, now they're done with Napoleon. And so the British can just go full force, and that's not something we should have, that's what we should have done as far as America is concerned, right? Now, I'm not necessarily taking sides here, but if we were to look at it as Army A being Army America and Army B being the British, right? And we take away America and Britain, and there's no Oh, my place is better than your place put in there. It's just Army A versus Army B. What Army A could have done and should have done is, like, get in there as fast as they can with as much as they can and end that, end it. End it all as quickly as humanly possible. Because we knew at the time that they were dealing with Napoleon. We were trading with Napoleon and with the British and pissing them both off. So it's not like we didn't know. The United States should have just went in full force, but they hesitated because a lot of New England was not in support of the war. Unfortunately, couldn't rally us all together. Man. So much for United. Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. The Americans again invaded Niagara frontier. They had occupied southwestern Upper Canada after they defeated Colonel Henry Proctor at Moravian Town in October. Oh, wait, I already read all that shit. Holy shit. I'm way down here. They captured Fort Erie on 3rd of July, 1814. Unaware that Fort Erie's fall or the size of the American force, the British General Phineas Riall engaged with Winfield Scott, who won against a British force at the Battle of Chippewa on the 5th of July. American forces had been through a hard training under Winfield Scott and proved the professionals under fire. They would deploy in a shallow U formation, bringing flanking fire and well-aimed volleys against Riall's men. Riall's men were chased off the battlefield. Dang. I mean, that's kind of effective, because then you're doing the U shape when everybody's firing at the same time. They're all, you know what I mean? It's like hard to miss. I mean, it also, depending on how tight the U is, puts your own men in danger in crossfire scenario, but I mean, if you do it right, it could be pretty fucking effective. Hey, Caldy, welcome in. How you doing? An attempt to advance further ended with the hard-fought but inconclusive Battle of Lundy's Lane on July 25th. The battle was fought several miles north of Chippewa River, near Niagara Falls, and is considered the bloodiest and costliest battle of the war. Both sides stood their ground as American General Jacob Brown pulled back to Fort George after the battle, and the British did not pursue. Commanders Riall, Scott, Brown, and Drummond were all wounded. Scott's wound ended his commission for the rest of the war. The Americans withdrew, but withstood a prolonged siege of Fort Erie. The British tried to storm Fort Erie on the 14th of August, 1814, but they suffered heavy losses, losing 950 wounded, captured, killed, compared to only the 84 dead and wounded on the American side. Dang. Okay, so that's one thing that proves consistent throughout most wars in history. I think modern day and technology might be changing this because of all the automation. We don't have to send troops in anymore. We can fly drones in there now. I mean, the U.S. can do some other crazy shit, but we're not going to get into that. For pretty much all of war history, up until recent developments in technology, if you were the defending force, you lost far less than the attacking force. Somewhere to like 2 or 3 times less. It's wild. You had to have a major force to siege a place. That being said, the British were further weakened by exposure and shortage of supplies. Eventually, they raised the siege, but American Major General George Izard took over command on the Niagara front and followed up only half-heartedly. American raid along the Grand River destroyed many farms and weakened British logistics. In October 1814, the Americans advanced into Upper Canada and engaged in skirmishes at Cook's Mill. They pulled back when they heard the new British warship HMS St. Lawrence, launched in Kingston that September, was on its way armed with 104 guns. They took a lesson from the Spanish. Muchos guns equals muchos damage. They took a lesson from the fucking Spanish ships back in the day had so many fucking guns, dude. They were like enough power to rock the ship itself sideways from firing them all at the same time. Like, the Spanish ships were gnarly back in the day. Shit. It's part of the reason they were one of the world powers at the time. It was Britain, France, and Spain, and then France got spanked by the rest of the world, leaving just Spain and Britain for a good hot minute. The Americans lacked provisions and retreated across the Niagara after destroying Fort Erie. Meanwhile, 1,500 British troops were sent to North America. 15,000 British troops were sent to North America under 4 of Wellington's Ablest Brigade commanders after Napoleon abdicated and was exiled to St. Helens, where he later died of stomach cancer, and then during the autopsy they stole his pee-pee. We went over that in the Napoleonic Wars. It's a war crime. Even though it happened after the war and during his autopsy, still, that's a crime. You don't cut off a man's wee-wee and steal it. Even if it is a dead man, that's jacked up. It's jacked up. Fewer than half were veterans of the peninsula, and the rest came from garrisons. Prevost was ordered to neutralize American power on the lakes by burning Sackett's Harbor to gain naval control over Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and the Upper Lakes, as well as defend Lower Canada from attack. He did defend Lower Canada, but otherwise failed to achieve his objectives, so he decided to invade New York State. His army outnumbered the American defenders of Plattsburgh, but he was worried about his flanks and decided that he needed naval control of Lake Champlain. Upon reaching Plattsburgh, Prevost delayed the assault until Downey arrived in the hastily completed 36-gun frigate HMS Confiance. This little teeny thing, with its little 36 guns, ain't nothing compared to the 104. Oh, shit. That's fucking wild. Despite the Confiance not being fully completed, she had a raw crew that had never worked together. Dang, not only was it not fully completed, it had a haphazard crew. That sucks. Prevost forced Downey into a premature attack when there was no reason for the rush. The British squadron on the lake under Captain George Downey was more evenly matched by the Americans under Master Commandant Thomas MacDonough. After the Battle of Plattsburgh on 11th of September, 1814, 9/11/1814, the British had the advantage of larger vessels and guns. American gunboats were more suited to engagements on Lake Champlain, while MacDonough was able to maneuver his ships using pulley lines attached to anchors. The fucking legend. What? Holy shit, he's pulling his ships around like, I'm gonna manipulate this way more than fucking... That's crazy. Up the maneuvering. That's nuts. Early in the battle, each side lost a ship. Downey was killed by the recoil of a loose gun carriage, while McDonough was twice knocked down and dazed. After 2.5 hours, HMS Confiance suffered heavy casualties and struck her colors, and the rest of the British fleet retreated. Prevost, already alienated from his veteran officers by insisting on proper dress codes, now lost their confidence, while McDonough emerged as a national hero. Damn right he did. The Americans now had control of Lake Champlain. Theodore Roosevelt later termed it the greatest naval battle of the war. General Alexander Macomb led the successful land defense. Prevost then turned back, to the astonishment of his senior officers, saying that it was too hazardous to remain on enemy territory after the loss of naval supremacy. He was recalled to London, where naval court-martial decided that defeat had been caused principally by Prevost urging the squadron into premature action and then failing to afford the promised support from the land forces. He died suddenly, just before his court-martial was to convene. Yeah, I bet he did. Oh, shit. His reputation sank to a new low as Canadians claimed their militia under Brock did the job, but Prevost failed. However, recent historians have been kinder. Peter Burrows argues that his preparations were energetic, well-conceived, and comprehensive for defending the Canadians with limited means, and that he achieved the primary objective of preventing an American conquest. But did he, though? I mean, I don't know. I still feel like he was kind of haphazard. Maybe that's just my opinion, but... Because, think about it. The size of the British Empire at the time, the fact that we won anything against them is just fucking wild, dude. Just fucking wild. Goes to show the fucking American spirit. Oh. Hey, Amanda, welcome in. How you doing? Maine, then part of Massachusetts, was a base for smuggling and illegal trade between the United States and the British. Till 1813, the region was generally quiet except for privateer actions near the coast. In September 1813, the United States Navy brig Enterprise fought and captured the Royal Navy brig Boxer off Pemaquid Point. On the 11th of July, 1814, Thomas Masterman Hardy took Moose Island without a shot, and the entire American garrison, 65 men, of Fort Sullivan peacefully surrendered. The British temporarily renamed the captured fort Fort Sherbrooke. In September 1814, John Coop Sherbrooke led 3,000 British troops from his base in Halifax in the Penobscot expedition. In 26 days, he raided and looted Hamden, Bangor, and Machias, destroying or capturing 17 American ships. He won the Battle of Hampton, and with 2 killed, while the Americans had 1 killed. Retreating American forces were forced to destroy the frigate Adams. Dang. The British occupied the town of Castine and most of eastern Maine for the rest of the war, governing it under martial law and re-establishing the colony of New Ireland. The Treaty of Ghent returned this territory to the United States. When the British left in April 15, they took 10,750 euro in pounds. 10,750 pounds in tariff duties from Castine. This money, called the Castine Fund, was used to establish Dalhousie University in Halifax. Decisions about the islands in Passamaquoddy Bay were decided by joint commissions in 1817. Doing well? That's good. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. I am having a fantastic night because I feel much better than I did 2 days ago. Still a little under the weather, but not like miserable. Holy shit, the other day was terrible. Oh my god. I haven't been sick like I was 2 days ago since probably like 5 years. It's been a while since I've been that incapacitated. And I was done for. Holy shit. We're talking like out of breath, walking from fucking one place to another in my house. Like 10 feet. Couch to the fridge, out of breath. It was terrible. Couldn't breathe. It was gnarly. Yo, let's go. Healthy ninjas are the best. Yeah, well, better be fucking healthy now, damn it. Holy shit, I fought that shit off like a champ. Can't take me down. Can't take me down. Tried. Couldn't do it. Couldn't fucking do it. However, Machia Seal Island had been seized by the British as part of the occupation and was unaddressed by the Commission. While kept by Britain/Canada, it remains in dispute to this day. The strategic location of the Chesapeake Bay near the Potomac River made it a prime target for the British. Rear Admiral George Cockburn arrived there in March 1813 and was joined by Admiral Warren, who took command of the operations 10 days later. Starting in March, a squadron under Cockburn started a blockade of the month of the bay at Hampton Roads Harbor and raided towns along the bay from Norfolk, Virginia to Havre de Grace in Maryland. In late April, Cockburn landed at and set fire to Frenchtown in Maryland and destroyed ships that were docked there. In the following weeks, he routed the local militias and looted and burned 3 other towns. Thereafter, he marched to an iron foundry at Principio and destroyed it along with 68 cannons. This dude was on a rampage. Holy shit. He's running around burning everything. This guy's implementing full scorched earth policy. He's like, no, we don't just take it and loot it. We burn it. We leave nothing behind. Holy crap, it's the shinobi way. Yeah, well, I mean, kinda. Right? Kinda. It's kinda the shinobi way. See, the shinobi way, Fredo, would have been for me to go all super microscopic. You know, like condense my ninja self down into this little bitty single-celled size ninja and go into my own immune system and fight the sickness off myself, which I did not do. I will admit, I did not do that. Should've, but I didn't. Didn't have to. On the 4th of July, 1813, Commodore Joshua Barney. Oh man, Barney. Fucking purple dinosaur. An American Revolutionary War naval officer convinced the Navy Department to build the Chesapeake Bay Flotilla. A squadron of 20 barges powered by small sails or oars to defend the Chesapeake Bay. Launched in April 1814, the squadron was quickly cornered on the Patuxent River. While successful in harassing the Royal Navy, they could not stop subsequent British operations in the area. Damn it. Britain always doing their thing, I'm telling you. In August 1814, a force of 2,500 soldiers under General Ross had just arrived in Bermuda aboard HMS Royal Oak, 3 frigates, 3 sloops, and 10 other vessels. Released from the Peninsular War by victory, the British intended to use them for diversionary raids along the coasts of Maryland and Virginia. In response to Prevost's request, they decided to employ this force, together with the naval and military units already on on station to strike at the national capital. Anticipating the attack, valuable documents, including the original Constitution, were removed to Leesburg, Virginia. The British task force advanced up Chesapeake, routing Commodore Barney's flotilla of gunboats, carried out the raid on Alexandria, landed ground forces that bested U.S. defenders at the Battle of Bladensburg, and carried out the burning of Washington. Damn. They're like, we're done with Napoleon. Now we can focus on you. You little bastards. You want independence? You're gonna fight for it. You want Canada? You're gonna fight for it. We didn't actually care about Canada. We really didn't. United States Secretary of War John Armstrong Jr. insisted that the British were going to attack Baltimore rather than Washington, even as the British Army and naval units were on their way to Washington. Brigadier General William H. Winder, who had burned several bridges in the area, assumed the British would attack Annapolis and was reluctant to engage because he mistakenly thought the British Army was twice its size. Damn it. The inexperienced state militia was easily routed in the Battle of Bladensburg, opening the route to Washington. British troops led by Major General Robert Ross, accompanied by Cockburn. Cockburn? That sucks. Unfortunate for that guy. He got himself a Cockburn. The 3rd Brigade attacked and captured Washington with a force of 4,500. On the 24th of August, after the British had finished looting the interiors, Ross directed his troops to set fire to a number of public buildings, including the White House and the United States Capitol. Extensive damage to the interiors and contents of both were subsequently reported. U.S. government military officials fled to Virginia, while Secretary of the United States Navy William Jones ordered the Washington Navy Yard and a hereby fort to be razed in order to prevent its capture. Public buildings in Washington were destroyed by the British through the private residences spared. They spared, though the private residents were ordered to be spared. Siege. Moving into the next one. Oh, man. Fort McHenry. After taking some munitions from Washington Munitions Depot, the British boarded their ships and moved on to their major target, the heavily fortified major city of Baltimore. Because some of their ships were held up in raid on Alexandria, they delayed their movement, allowing Baltimore an opportunity to strengthen the fortifications and bring in new federal troops and state militia units. The battle for Baltimore began with the British landing on the 12th of September 1814 at North Point, where they were met by an American militia further up the Patapsco Neck Peninsula. That's quite the tongue twister. Patapsco Neck. All right. An exchange of fire began with casualties on both sides. The British Army commander, Major General Robert Ross, was killed by snipers. How do you have snipers with muskets? All right. Yep. Was killed by snipers because America had snipers in 1812. Or sorry, 1814. All right. The British paused. I don't think snipers is an accurate term to use. I'm sorry, that's just funny to me. Holy shit, what did they have, fucking high-powered scopes on their muskets or some shit? What the fuck? Jesus, get out of here. The British paused, then continued to march northwestward to face the stationed Maryland and Baltimore City militia units at Godlywood. The Battle of North Point was fought for several afternoon hours in a musketry and artillery duel. The British also planned to simultaneously attack Baltimore on water the following day, although the Royal Navy was unable to reduce Fort McHenry at the entrance to Baltimore Harbor in support of an attack from the northeast by the British Army. The British eventually realized they could not force passage to attack Baltimore in coordination with the land force. A last-ditch night feint and barge attack during a heavy rainstorm was led by Captain Charles Napier around the fort up the middle branch of the river to the west. Split and misdirected partially in the storm, it was turned back after suffering heavy casualties from the alert gunners of Fort Covington and Battery Babbitt. The British called off the attack and sailed downriver to pick up their army, which had retreated from the east side of Baltimore. All the lights were extinguished in Baltimore the night of the attack, and the fort was bombarded for 25 hours. Holy shit. The only light was given off by exploding shells over Fort McHenry, illuminating the flag that was still flying over the fort. The defense of the fort inspired the American lawyer Francis Scott Key to write Defense of Fort McHenry, a poem that was later set to music as the Star-Spangled Banner. Whoa. You gotta pass out. Have a good night, Caldy. He doesn't wear glasses. He puts them in the pines. I'm telling you, dude. Ah, shit. Have a good night, Caldy, you legend. Oh, shit. Because of the region's polyglot population, both British and Americans perceived the war in the Gulf South as a fundamentally different conflict from the one occurring in Low Country and Chesapeake. Before 1813, the war between Creeks or Muskogee had been largely an internal affair, sparked by the ideas of Tecumseh further north in the Mississippi Valley. A faction known as the Red Sticks, so named for the color of their war sticks, had broken away from the rest of the Creek Confederacy, which wanted peace with the United States. The Red Sticks were allied with Tecumseh, who had visited the Creeks about a year before, 1813, and encouraged greater resistance to the Americans. The Creek Nation was a trading partner of the United States, actively involved with British and Spanish trade as well. The Red Sticks, as well as many southern Muskogee people, like the Seminole, had a long history of alliance with British and Spanish empires. This alliance helped the North American and European powers protect each other's claims to territory in the South. Hell yeah. That's kind of lit. The natives were playing like border judge, I guess. They were like, nope, that's their territory. You don't get that, no. That's theirs. Not you. On the 27th of July, Red Sticks were returning from Pensacola with a packed train filled with trade goods and arms when they were attacked by Americans who made off with their goods. Damn it. L, assholes. On the 30th of August, 1813, in retaliation for the raid, the Red Sticks, led by Chief of the Creek's Red Eagle and Peter McQueen, attacked Fort Mims north of the Mobile, the only American-held port in the territory west of West Florida. The attack on Fort Mims resulted in the horrific death of 400 refugee settlers, all butchered and scalped, including women and children, and became an ideological rallying point for the Americans. Where is Shane for the war crimes? You're missing him, Shane. You are missing him. He'll probably see him eventually. Go back and watch it, because there's a lot of them in this one. Holy shit. It prompted the state of Georgia and Mississippi militia to immediately take major action against the Creek offensives. The Red Sticks chiefs gained power in the east along the Alabama River, Coosa River, and Tallapoosa River. River in the Upper Creek Territory. By contrast, the Lower Creek, who lived along the Chattahoochee, River generally opposed the Red Sticks and wanted to remain allied to the U.S. Indian agent Benjamin Hawkins recruited Lower Creek to aid the 6th Military District under General Thomas Pinckney and the state's militias against Red Sticks. The United States combined forces were 5,000 troops from the East and West Tennessee, with about 200 indigenous allies. At its peak, the Red Stick faction had 4,000 warriors, only a quarter of whom had muskets. Well, quite at a disadvantage there, aren't you? I mean, maybe. It depends. Really depends on the terrain. The Indian frontier of western Georgia was the most vulnerable, but it was partially fortified already. From November 1813 to January 1814, Georgia's militia and auxiliary federal troops from the Creek and Cherokee indigenous nations and the states of North Carolina and South Carolina organized the fortification of defenses along the Chattahoochee River. Chattahoochee. It's a hoochie. That river is a hoochie mama. The Chattahoochee mama. And expeditions into Upper Creek Territory in present-day Alabama. The army led by General John Floyd went to the heart of the Creek holy grounds and won major offensive against one of the largest Creek towns at the Battle of Atusi. The Battle of Atusi. Atusi Dookie, killing an estimated 200 people. In November, the militia of Mississippi, with a combined 1,200 troops, attacked in the Econacha encampment in the Battle of Holy Ground on the Alabama River. Tennessee raised a militia of 5,000 under Major General Andrew Jackson and Brigadier General John Coffee. Hey, let's go, John Coffee. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. And won the battles of Talushatchi, all right, and Talladega in November 1813. Jackson suffered enlistment problems in the winter. He decided to combine his force, composed of Tennessee militia and pro-American Creek, with Georgia militia. In January, however, the Red Sticks had attacked his army at the Battle of Emukfa and Enotachopo Creek. Dang, dude, these names are killing me. Jackson's troops repelled the attackers, but they were outnumbered and forced to withdraw to his base at Fort Strother. In January, Floyd's force of 1,300 state militia and 400 Creek moved to join the United States forces in Tennessee, but they were attacked in camp on the Calaby Creek by the Tukabachi Muskogees on the 27th of January. Man. Jackson's force increased the numbers with the arrival of United States Army soldiers and the second draft of Tennessee State Militia. Cherokee and pro-American Creek swelled his army to around 5,000. In March 1814, they moved to south to attack the Red Sticks. On the 27th of March, Jackson decisively defeated a force of about 1,000 Red Sticks at Horseshoe Bend, killing 800 of them at a cost of 49 and 154 wounded. Dang! Talk about one-sided. Holy shit! I guess that's what happens when a small percentage of your army only has muskets and then the other army walks up fully equipped. Yeah, that was one-sided as shit, buddy. Oh my god. Jackson then moved his army to Fort Jackson on the Alabama River. He promptly turned on the pro-American Creek who had fought with him and compelled their chieftains, along with the single Red Stick chieftain, to sign the Treaty of Fort Jackson, which forced the Creek tribe as a whole to cede most of western Georgia and part of Alabama to the United States. Both Hawkins and the pro-American Creek strongly opposed the treaty, which they regarded as deeply unjust. The third clause of the treaty also demanded that the creek cease communicating with the British and Spanish trade only with the United States approved agents. Yep, can't trade with anybody else but who we tell you can trade with. That's a pretty coercive treaty. British aid to the Red Sticks arrived after the end of the Napoleonic Wars in April 14 and after Admiral Alexander Cochrane assumed command from Admiral Warren in March. Captain Hugh Pidgeot arrived in May 1814 with 2 ships to arm the Red Sticks. He thought that some 6,600 warriors could be armed and recruited. It was overly optimistic at best. Red Sticks were in the process of being destroyed as a military force. In April 1814, the British stabbed an outpost on the Apalachicola River. Nailed it. Prospect Bluff historic sites. Cochrane sent a company of Royal Marines commanded by Edward Nichols. The vessel, HMS Hermes and HMS Karen, were further supplies to meet the Indians in the region. In addition to training them, Nichols was tasked to raise a force from escaped slaves as part of the Corps of Colonel Marines. On the 12th of July, 1814, General Jackson complained to the governor of West Florida, Mateo Gonzalez Manrique, situated at Pensacola, that combatants from the Creek War were being harbored in Spanish territory and made reference to reports of the British presence on Spanish soil. Although he gave an angry reply to Jackson, Manrique was alarmed at the weak position he found himself in and appealed to the British for help. Damn it. The British were observed docking on August 25th and unloading the following day. The first engagement of the British and their Creek allies against the Americans on the Gulf Coast was the 14th of September 1814 attack on Fort Boyer. Captain William Percy tried to take the United States fort, hoping to then move on and block United States trade and encroachment on the Mississippi. After the Americans repulsed Percy's forces, the British established a military presence of up to 200 Marines at Pensacola. In November, Jackson's force of 4,000 men took the town. This underlined the superiority of numbers of Jackson's force in the region. United States force moved to New Orleans in late 1814. Jackson's army of 1,000 regulars and 3,000 to 4,000 militia, pirates and other fighters, as well as civilians and slaves, built fortifications south of the city. My room's so red developing photos? No, we're talking about war, JS. I'm in the bunker. I am in the bunker, my guy. We are in the bunker talking about war. See, that's what we do over here. We get drunk and we talk about war, because that's some man shit. We like man shit over here. How you doing, Jazz? I hope you're having a good night, man. Good to see you in the chat. Welcome in. American forces under General James Wilkinson. Oh, wait. I think I just read that one. No, I didn't. American forces under General James Wilkinson, himself a paid Spanish secret agent, took the Mobile area from the Spanish in March 1813. This region was the rump of Spanish West Florida, western portion of which had been annexed to the United States in 1810. The Americans built Fort Boyer, a log and earthenwork fort with 14 guns. So they basically built a fucking log cabin with some stones around it and put some guns up and said, "What's up? Come invade our fort." On Mobile Point to defend it, Major Latour opened that none of the 3 forts in the area were capable of resisting a siege. Yeah, I could imagine. At the end of 1814, the British launched a double offensive in the south weeks before the Treaty of Ghent was signed. On the Atlantic coast, Admiral George Cockburn, there's that burned cock again, was too close to the intercoastal waterway trade and land Royal Marine battalions to advance through Georgia to the Western Territories. While on the Gulf Coast, Admiral Alexander Cochrane, oh, look at that, we got Cockburn and Cochrane, moved on to the new state of Louisiana and the Mississippi Territory. Cochrane's ships reached the Louisiana Coast Guard on the 9th of December, and Cockburn arrived in Georgia on the 14th of December. Shit. That's kind of funny. I'm dying. Holy shit. The British Army had the objective of gaining control of the entrance of Mississippi. To this end, an expeditionary force of 8,000 troops under General Edward Pakenham attacked Jackson's prepared defenses in New Orleans on the 8th of January, 1815. The Battle of New Orleans was an American victory, as the British failed to take the fortifications on the east bank. The British attack force suffered high casualties, including 291 dead, 1,262 wounded, and 484 captured or missing, whereas the American casualties were light, 13 dead, 39 wounded, and 19 missing, according to the respective official casualty returns. Which, mind you, is actually fucking hilarious. Because they had these weak-ass defenses like we just went over. Get wrecked, UK. Like, how did Britain just, like, fumble it? They were, like, whooping ass all over the rest of the world. I mean, I guess not really, right? Because Britain's their main fucking meat back in the 1700s was just navy. That's all it was naval power. Honestly. I feel like they could make most people just surrender by showing a superior naval force and making people think that they had this massive army that could just siege anything. The British Army had the objective of gaining control of the entrance of Mississippi. To this end, an expeditionary force of 8,000 troops under General Edward Pakenham attacked Jackson's prepared defenses in New Orleans. Yeah, we just went over that. This battle was hailed a great victory across the United States, making Jackson a national hero and eventually propelling him to presidency. In January 1815, Fort St. Philip endured 10 days of bombardment from 2 bomb vessels of the Royal Navy. Robert V. Remini believes this was preventing the British moving their fleet up the Mississippi in support of land attack. After deciding further attacks would be too costly and unlikely to succeed, the British troops withdrew on the 18th of January. However, adverse winds slowed the evacuation operation, and it was not until the 27th of January that the land forces rejoined the fleet, allowing for its final departure. After New Orleans, the British moved to take Mobile as a base for further operations. In preparation, General John Lambert laid siege to Fort Boyer, taking it on the 12th of February 1815. However, HMS Brazen brought news of the Treaty of Ghent the next day, and the British abandoned the Gulf Coast. This ending of the war prevented the capture of Mobile and any renewed attacks on New Orleans. Meanwhile, in January 1815, Cockburn succeeded in blockading the southeastern coast of Georgia by occupying Camden County. The British quickly took Cumberland Island, Fort Point, Peter, and Fort St. Tammany in decisive victory under the orders of his commanding officers. Cockburn's forces relocated many refugee slaves, capturing St. Simon's Island as well had orders to recruit as many runaway slaves into the Corps of colonial Marines as possible and use them to conduct raids in Georgia and the Carolinas. Cockburn also provided thousands of muskets and carbines and a huge quantity of ammunition to the Creeks and Seminole Indians for the same purpose. During the invasion of Georgia, coast, an estimated 1,485 people chose to relocate to British territories or join the British military. However, by mid-March, several days after being informed of the Treaty of Ghent, British ships left the area. Whoa. The British government did not recognize either West Florida or New Orleans as American territory. The historian Frank Owsley suggests that they might have used a victory at New Orleans to demand further concessions from the U.S. However, subsequent research in the correspondence of British ministers at the time suggests otherwise, with specific reference to correspondence from Prime Minister to the Foreign Secretary dated 23rd of December, 1814. West Florida was the only territory permanently gained by the United States during the war. Dang. Well, I knew we were going to be able to finish it tonight. Could get into this real quick. I think I have this picture, right? This one? Yeah. Yep. Boom. All right. Get into this real quick. In August 1814, peace discussions began in Ghent. Both sides approached negotiations warily. The British strategy for decades had been to create a buffer state in the American Northwest Territory to block American expansion. Britain also demanded naval control of Great Lakes and access to Mississippi River. On the American side, Monroe instructed the American diplomats sent to Europe to try to convince the British to cede the Canadas or at least Upper Canada to the U.S. At a later stage, the Americans also demanded damages for the burning of Washington and for the seizure of ships before the war began. So, basically, the Treaty of Ghent was like, before it was officially accepted by both sides, there was a lot of fucking arguing going on about it. They were like, no, you need to pay me back for this. Well, you need to pay me for this. No, fuck you, you need to pay me. You owe me, buddy. Yeah, you fucking owe me. Yeah. A bunch of whining crybabies, I tell you. But that finishes the War of 1812. Wrapped it up rather quick. It was actually a really short war. It wasn't the shortest war in American history. The shortest war in American history is... Give me 1 second. The Spanish-American War. That's what it was. I fucking... Yeah, 1898. Spanish-American War, and it lasted about 10 weeks. Crazy. Talk about a short war. But, so, the intro and outro for this video is being moved to just the outro, because we're moving forward with more war content. And damn it, Fredo, since you didn't tell me what you wanted for the Ottoman Empire, I'm just going to go ahead and pick something. So, I'm going to pick it. It'll be my Ottoman Empire choice. It'll be a good one, don't worry. Don't worry. We might actually end up being on the Ottoman Empire all month because of what I have planned for Halloween, but, you know, we'll get there. We'll get there, right? Oh, wait, hold on. One thing I wanted to fucking do real quick. Uno mas. This might actually cause me to lag out for a second. Might cause me to lag out. Let's see. Whoop. Nope, that's not gonna be it. It's gonna be... No? Well. Oh, derp. I know. It's in here somewhere. Damn it. Nailed it. Alright, now we can get that out of there. Sweet. Cool. Yeah, alright. So, next time we're going to do the Ottoman Empire, but there's going to be a new intro, so forgive me if it takes until next week to get that completed. There's going to be a new intro. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. But the old intro that I'm about to play for you will become the outro, so it'll still be there. We'll still be able to enjoy all the crazy gnarliness that is the original intro. It'll just be the outro from here on out. And then as we move forward, I'll just keep looping them through. Eventually we'll get back to it. Maybe I'll reinsert it later on down the line. But kind of want to cycle some new shit. I don't want my stuff to be too repetitive, you know what I mean? Shit. So, that being said, I think we're gonna go ahead and call it for tonight. Shit. Fucking exhausted. I'm still kind of sick. Oh, I need to not be sick anymore. Which means I need to go get some fucking rest. And, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Go get some rest. So, that being said, I hope all of you out there have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. It doesn't matter where you're at in the world. Enjoy your time, because it could be limited. You never know. You never know what could happen. You could, be cooking yourself an egg and forgot that you put a shell in it. Or at least didn't realize that one broke off. And then a bubble forms in that egg, and when it pops, it shoots the shell right through your eyeball, right into your optic nerve and up into your brain and kills you. It's possible. However small that possibility may be, it is possible. So, no matter what happens, enjoy your time, because you never know what could happen. Might as well enjoy what you have, when you have it, to the fullest extent of it. That being said, my time with you all has come to an end. I will see you tomorrow night with another stream, and then this weekend for the start of the gaming streams. We're gonna get into some those ones are gonna be longer streams. Longer streams indeed. But I am now leaving you with the outro and a nice little surprise after the outro, so stick around if you wanna hear that. As for me, see y'all next time.
I just wish he knew. just wish he knew.
left no spark, wishing on every star. Feel so far, feel so far. Sad night alone, no one's picking up the phone. Sad night alone, just me and my echo's tone. Clock ticks loud in the dark, dreams have left no spark, wishing on every star. Feel so far, feel so far. Sad night alone, no one's picking up the phone. Sad night alone, just me and my echo's tone. Sad night alone.